Okay. Okay. All right. Um, I put the headphones back on. Why am I just hit the mic. This is why we do edits, folks. Because if editors weren't a thing, then we would have utter chaos like this. Oh, that's there we go. I have to. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. We're gonna save this one in the edit, just like Star Wars. I mean, what? Welcome. We're reviewing Deadpool and Wolverine. This movie right here, Deadpool and Wolverine. Um, this is going to be a no spoilers review. So nothing is going to be spoiled in this. Ideally, I don't ruin any part of the experience for anybody. I'll give like some trailer, if you haven't seen any trailers, warning, then don't watch this part. But I'm going to just try to keep it to the stuff that you would see in the trailers or stuff that you may have heard about or stuff that is like maybe mentionable but not without ruining anything. Anyway, I went to Deadpool and Wolverine, a little screening, got this little ticket, this little golden ticket, very cool, very nice. I'm making this review hours before I'm allowed to publish it, 3 hours to be exact. We'll see if I get the edit done in time. I'm editing down notes. Look, I have so many notes. Wow. 3 pages. Well, some of the back to back. That's a face sheet. Don't look at that. Back to back notes. It's a mess. Not wholly unlike the movie, perhaps. I would say overall, my quick summary of it is it's a Deadpool movie in the MCU. It's exactly as advertised. You get to see more of, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. It's just great, hilarious, best kind of embodiment of the character put to screen thus far. Not that there are many or really any other than him. But I took kind of the night to sleep on it and write notes, and then did a rewatching marathon. I sat through Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 back to back just to make sure that I'm not talking like complete craziness here. I've done minimal research, and I'll tell you right now, if you're looking for me to mention something from the comics, like this isn't Deadpool from the comics, or this is a reference to comic book number 507. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to do that. I just don't know him that well, and I'm not going to pretend like I do. You don't have to be a huge comic Deadpool fan to understand what's going on. If you were a fan of the first two movies and a fan of the MCU, you're going to be a fan of this movie. It's very much what you are getting now from the MCU, if you know what I mean. If you're someone who's enjoying the more recent entries, then you're going to enjoy this. If you're a fan of the Marvels, of Guardians 3, of Quantumania, of Wakanda Forever, Love and Thunder, Multiverse of Madness, all these movies that have kind of come out since Endgame, this is going to be an enjoyable movie. Just off the bat, you're already in for a good movie. Unless you're not a fan of the Deadpool movies, then you're not going to like it because it's both. It's the recent phase of modern. Oh, geez, it's the recent Marvel and Deadpool, just like that, right? Like jammed together. I found myself kind of describing it like a car being driven by two factions, like two parties have taken the wheel. There's, the director and Ryan Reynolds, director Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds, kind of their silliness of Ryan Reynolds trying to continue the spirit of the Deadpool movies, and Sean Levy, he's done a bunch of stuff. He's done a bunch of episodes of Stranger Things. He's directed more recently The Adam Project and Free Guy, with Ryan Reynolds, starring Ryan Reynolds. He's even directed Hugh Jackman in Real Steel. And then there's, even going further back, Cheaper by the Dozen, Big Fat Liar, classics, iconic movies, all that stuff. Pink Panther, we won't talk about that. But anyway, Sean Levy, funny guy. Ryan Reynolds, hilarious. We all knew that. What's kind of not working in their favor, though, is that also trying to grab the wheel is the Marvel universe, the MCU, the Kevin Feige part of the universe. And I don't name him because I think he specifically, had his hand in this or whatever. I think that in general, there's like the status quo that they're trying to meet. And, he's just kind of the face of it, but it could have been any of 100 people. They're trying to make all the Marvel movies kind of feel the same, or maybe they're not trying to do that, but it is what's happening. In my opinion, for worse. In some other people's opinion, for better. But I think that their constant kind of back and forth of this is a Deadpool movie, this is an MCU movie, this is a Deadpool movie, this is an MCU movie. It feels like they're swerving between the two lanes. It doesn't ever feel like a one movie voice, like we're putting, one cohesive movie together. That's not to say it's incoherent or chaotic. I mean, it is, but in Deadpool way, not in a movie is bad way. But it is to kind of just say that I think they could have taken a little more time to try to merge these two ideas together more cleanly. I'll call it right here. If you haven't seen any trailers, you want to go in 100% blind, don't watch any further. I'm going to mention some stuff that's in the trailers. We see some things like the TVA show up. We obviously know Wolverine is in it because he's in the title. You have to be really caught up on Loki. You have to be all the way through season 2, because if you haven't seen Loki season 2, you're not going to really understand where some things came from, even if you saw Loki season 1. I don't know. It's just strange to see that there's these two kind of battling elements of like, we're telling a story that's a continuation of where Loki season 2 ended, and we're telling a story that is Deadpool. And the Loki season 2, the TVA part, doesn't really seem to go anywhere. And I won't get into how that show ended, but it is kind of, the events that took place there are referenced in this somewhat. Not directly, there's no like you need to see it or you won't understand, but it is a little bit like you see it and you know why people are in places or doing things that they're doing. They make references to stuff like that. Whenever it's a Deadpool movie, whenever it's Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman being silly, being funny, doing their thing, it's great. It's just hilarious. It's definitely another Deadpool movie. It's Deadpool 3. After watching the first two, I have a feel for it somewhat. It's not perfect, but somewhat. And then when you go and you start watching the Marvel parts, it gets a little bit Quantumania, if you know what I mean. If you've seen Quantumania, you kind of know what I'm talking about here. With that said, I think that the biggest kind of draw is the fact that you're getting a continuation of this character who is now part of a bigger universe. I don't know if Ryan Reynolds is going to continue playing Deadpool. I don't know what the plan is there, but if he does, he's well set up to be a part of it now, or at least a cameo in it, or what have you. But I don't think that this really pulls him into the greater story, which is for the better. I think that's good. I don't think they needed to involve him, but they sort of did. That's what I'm getting at. It's kind of messy in that way. I kind of wish that they had stuck with just keeping it standalone and maybe little references here or there. They had a few of those things, like little references, but I think it was very overt in the form of over the top MCU stuff and Deadpool. What I will say though, and this is again, this is going to sound a little negative. I don't want it to be. I think that the creative minds behind this are great. Ryan Reynolds came back to write it. Again, Sean Levy, I think, is great. They're both comedy-based, comedy director, comedy writer, comedy actor, right? Like they're comedy. But what Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 had were action directors. Deadpool 1 was directed by Tim Miller. He's directed a bunch of Deadpool shorts. He did Terminator Dark Fate, which, better or worse, was a solid action movie, and he did a bunch of episodes or several episodes of Love, Death, Robots. He clearly understands the action kind of component of things. Same with Deadpool 2, which is directed by David Leitch. He's the director of John Wick. I don't know exactly how his name is said. I guess I could look that up. That's on me. That's my bad. I didn't do my research. I apologize. But he is an action director, former stuntman. The stunts in Deadpool 2, I think, were fantastic. A lot better kind of fighting work. But that's not to say that Deadpool 1 was bad, because it was really good. It was really solid. Deadpool 3, on the other hand, it suffers a little bit of Marvel fight syndrome, where, with some notable exceptions, there's mostly a kind of shaky cam, no sense of weight or direct, like action direction going on. It's kind of just like moment of fight, shaking camera, like like you can't really tell what's going on. I noted that one fight was really funny. hilarious. It's a little bit of a music video, you'll know right away. It's definitely a joke fight, but it's great. And I think that other than a little bit of like, how do I put this? It almost feels like they've taken a note from The Boys. If you've seen The Boys, you'll know what I'm talking about when you watch the movie. If you haven't seen The Boys, this Deadpool movie feels a little more, I don't want to say gory, maybe graphically intense, right? In terms of the violence. They seem to have taken a little bit of a note from that, which is fine. The Boys is fun. The Boys is great. But The Boys is meant to be parody and over the top and crazy. Deadpool is also kind of like that, but also kind of self-serious. And I think that if I'm going to compare the movies here, after just watching 1 and 2, 1 and 2 are very, despite all the silliness, all the craziness, all the fourth wall breaking and the jokes, they are somewhat serious. I know there's a lot of really goofy moments and a lot of crazy stuff that happens. I could, bring up an example here, but I genuinely think that there are some serious moments. It feels like there are stakes for some of the characters, even stakes for Deadpool when he can't die, which is, hard to make stakes for a character like that. But I think 3 kind of lost that. I think it lost some of the kind of emotional nature of the first 2 movies. I feel like it's a little more jokey and not like doesn't take itself serious, and that's kind of recent MCU movies in a nutshell. There's not really a lot of room for character moments. You get maybe like a minute of a character kind of having a serious dialogue with another one, and that might be throughout the whole movie. You get 1 or 2 minutes of it, and that's just like, it's a little over the top. It's too much. It also doesn't feel like there's stakes because it's, again, MCU. The stakes are way too high. Like, it's a universe-ending issue when it doesn't have to be. The stakes are way higher. The stakes don't need to be as high as they are. It's Deadpool. He's not the Avengers. It's not meant to be like that. It just feels a little, it's too much. There's too much going on. Stakes are way too high. They don't get a moment to breathe and just talk and have an emotional moment or work through anything. The characters don't even really feel like they get to talk with each other outside of quipping and joking with each other. Little jabs and pokes. Yeah, it's just a little all over the place. Oh, there's some really, really funny scenes. Again, the comedy stuff is great. The comedy hits really well. There's genuinely several great joke moments, and without spoiling anything, without getting too much into it, there's so many just great moments of callbacks or cameos or references, Easter eggs. It's all in here. All the good stuff. They throw it in there. They give a lot for the audience. I love that. All around awesome. I have no notes on that other than awesome. I wish I wrote that down here, but that's for the spoiler review. I have other things to say there. There's a fight that happens, and again, it comes down to, you'll never fully escape this situation of superheroes fighting is never going to look fully realistic. 2 superheroes on screen fighting is almost always fully CGI people. There's some cases where that's not the case, I'm sure, but that's what it is. I totally get that. I think someone maybe needs to call OSHA and head over to the Marvel Studios. The CGI group over there maybe needs a little bit of help. They maybe need to sleep a little bit. The CGI recently has gotten a little sloppier. It's not the artist's fault. I don't blame them. I don't think that their work isn't quality. They're putting so many hours into this stuff. They're working as hard as they feasibly could, I imagine, under conditions I can't imagine. And that just is what it is. Sometimes things are going to get missed. Sometimes crunch time is going to happen. They're going to rush through something. I think there's a fight in specific that, although it's cool, it's very CGI heavy in a way that is hard to miss. And before that sounds like just a straight criticism of 3. There's moments like that I noted in Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2. Especially in Deadpool 2, there's a scene with Domino. She goes through and she kind of shows us what her powers are. And she absolutely looks like she's in a video game when it's happening. I could play a little clip from it here. It's just really short. Oh, boom. CGI mess. Seriously, it's not played as a joke. It's not mentioned in any way. The same thing goes in this movie. Sometimes the CGI gets a little strained, I guess is how I'd put it. There's too much going on. It's too hard to keep track of it. I didn't really like that fight because of it. It kind of threw me out of it. Then there's an action sequence I described as messy, is what I put there. Again, it's shaky cam, people having like hero shot moments, hitting a cool pose, doing their power, showing off their power or whatever. But it ultimately feels like a generic MCU fight. Don't know why it's happening, don't know who's winning or what's going on. And then there's another fight, one more fight at the end. Admittedly, pretty good, pretty funny. The action sequence is okay. The direction of it's a little strange. Maybe the plan was to make it look a certain way, to feel a certain way, to do a certain thing, but I don't know. It just kind of felt weird. Not to say bad, just weird. Overall, all of the action didn't feel as... I don't know how to put it. I would say that the action in Deadpool's 1 and 2, well thought out, well choreographed. Your kind of more generic action movie shootout, bad guys with guns, good guys with guns shooting each other. The good guys are aiming better, obviously, and they win. Versus in this movie, I don't think there's a single gun used by any... Oh, okay, some of the villains use guns, but very few by comparison. And it doesn't feel like they have any kind of threat to them. In the earlier movies, they didn't feel like they had a threat either. You shoot Deadpool, he doesn't die, but at least they were threats to regular people, to like the humans around. And even with these guns, I don't feel like the humans around would have been in danger. Deadpool's guns are an exception, which is strange and weird, but overall, it felt very different. Not necessarily all bad, a little bit bad in some places, a little bit good in some places. It's kind of a mixed bag in the action. Comedy on point, hilarious. The jokes are great all the way through. I think that there's tons of callbacks that I made notes to. There's just so many, which I'll get into with spoilers, but boy, they reference Deadpool 1 and 2 like crazy. Just absolutely crazy. But it's awesome. It's good in that way. My thoughts on this: too many cooks in the kitchen. Too many people wanting different things. It makes it a little bit whiplash, right? Like a little like, I don't know which way to look. I don't know if I'm looking at an MCU movie or a Deadpool movie or both or neither, or I don't know where this fits. I don't know why it feels the way it feels. It just feels kind of off. And I think that's the summary of how I feel with all the recent Marvel movies of the MCU. It's not one distinct thing that you can point to and be like, that's the problem. This is what's wrong with the MCU. It just feels like everything is a little off. And I know that's not really helpful. I can point to a bunch of different things. I'm sure tons of people have pointed out tons of different things. Point is that we can't really know what the situation is there, like why it is how it is. All we can really know is there's something a little bit off, and it's still happening even with movies that shouldn't really tie in that way and make it feel that way. However, I recommend the movie. I really do. It's funny. It's great. If you're a fan of Deadpool, if you're a fan of the MCU, you're definitely going to like it. If you're a fan of Deadpool and not the MCU, you'll still probably like it. Maybe not. Maybe like me, maybe a little more conflicted about it. Overall, let me know what you think, if you think different. Feel free to express your opinion, but respectfully. And of course, oh, I don't know. Did I do a sign off? Hold on, I don't even know if I did a sign off. Oh, well. Bye. I still don't know how to end a review. Whoops.